Imagine this. You're cruising through life, minding your own business, when suddenly, bam, you're hit with a problem involving another person. Whether it's a disagreement, a misunderstanding, or just plain old friction, these interpersonal challenges can throw us off balance. But fear not. In this video, we're diving deep into the wisdom of Stoicism to uncover 9 invaluable tips for navigating these murky waters with grace and wisdom. From handling conflicts with ease to fostering better relationships, these principles have the power to transform how you approach problems with people. So buckle up, because by the end of this journey, you'll be armed with the tools you need to tackle any interpersonal challenge like a Stoic pro. Tip number 1. Understanding human nature. Ever wondered why people act the way they do? It's a question as old as time itself. Stoicism offers us a profound insight. At the core of every individual lies the innate desire for happiness and fulfillment. It's a universal truth that transcends cultural, social, and personal boundaries. When we understand this fundamental aspect of human nature, it becomes easier to navigate the complexities of interpersonal relationships. Think about it. When someone lashes out in anger or withdraws into silence, it's often because they're seeking to protect their own happiness or alleviate their suffering. By recognizing this underlying motivation, we can approach conflicts with empathy and understanding, rather than defensiveness or hostility. But understanding human nature goes beyond just recognizing our shared desire for happiness. It's about acknowledging the unique experiences, perspectives, and values that shape each person's behavior. No two individuals are exactly alike, and by embracing this diversity, we open ourselves up to a deeper level of connection and understanding. So the next time you find yourself grappling with a problem involving another person, take a moment to pause and reflect on the underlying motivations at play. Ask yourself, what is this person's ultimate goal? What fears or insecurities might be driving their actions? By delving beneath the surface, you'll uncover a wealth of insight that can transform how you approach and resolve conflicts. Understanding human nature is the first step towards mastering the art of solving problems with people. It's a journey of self-discovery and empathy, guided by the timeless wisdom of Stoicism. Tip number 2. Practicing empathy. Now that we've delved into the depths of human nature, let's talk about empathy, the secret source of successful interpersonal relationships. Empathy is the ability to understand and share the feelings of another person. It's about stepping into their shoes and seeing the world through their eyes. In the world of Stoicism, empathy isn't just a nice-to-have, it's a fundamental virtue. By cultivating empathy, we cultivate compassion, understanding, and connection with those around us. When we can empathize with someone, we're better equipped to navigate conflicts and find mutually beneficial solutions. But empathy isn't always easy. It requires us to set aside our own preconceptions and biases and truly listen to what the other person is saying. It means being willing to acknowledge and validate their feelings, even if we don't necessarily agree with them. So how can we practice empathy in our daily lives? It starts with active listening. Instead of waiting for your turn to speak, focus on truly understanding what the other person is saying. Ask open-ended questions and show genuine interest in their perspective. Empathy also involves putting aside judgment and embracing vulnerability. It means being willing to admit when we've made a mistake and showing genuine remorse for any harm we may have caused. Ultimately, empathy is about building bridges, not walls. It's about fostering understanding and connection, even in the face of disagreement or conflict. So the next time you find yourself at odds with someone, take a moment to practice empathy. You might just be surprised at the transformative power it holds. Tip number 3. Cultivating patience. Picture this. You're in the midst of a heated argument with a friend or colleague. Emotions are running high and tensions are escalating by the second. In moments like these, cultivating patience can feel like an impossible task. However, Stoicism teaches us that patience is not only a virtue, but also a powerful tool for resolving conflicts with grace and wisdom. Patience is the ability to remain calm and composed in the face of adversity. It's about taking a step back and refraining from reacting impulsively to challenging situations. Instead of rushing to judgment or lashing out in anger, patience encourages us to pause, breathe, and consider our response carefully. But patience isn't just about waiting for the storm to pass. It's also about recognizing that change takes time. Whether we're working through a disagreement with a loved one or striving to mend a broken relationship, patience reminds us that healing and reconciliation are gradual processes. In the words of the Stoic philosopher Epictetus, no great thing is created suddenly. Patience allows us to cultivate empathy, understanding, and forgiveness, paving the way for deeper connections and more harmonious relationships. So the next time you find yourself embroiled in a conflict with another person, remember the power of patience. Take a deep breath, count to 10 if you must, and approach the situation with a calm and open mind. In doing so, you'll not only diffuse tensions but also lay the groundwork for lasting resolution and mutual growth. Tip number 4. Practicing Stoic virtues. Now that we've explored empathy and patience, let's delve into the heart of Stoic philosophy, the practice of virtues. Stoicism teaches that there are 4 cardinal virtues, wisdom, courage, justice, and temperance, that serve as guiding principles for living a life of meaning and fulfillment. Wisdom is the ability to see the world clearly and make sound judgments. It involves seeking truth and understanding and applying that knowledge to navigate life's challenges with clarity and purpose. Courage is the strength to face adversity and act in accordance with our values, even in the face of fear or discomfort. It's about standing firm in our convictions and facing obstacles head-on, rather than shrinking away from them. Justice is the commitment to fairness and equity in our dealings with others. It's about treating all people with dignity and respect, and striving to create a world where everyone has equal opportunities and rights. Temperance is the moderation of our desires and impulses. It's about finding balance in our lives and avoiding excess or extremes, whether it's in our consumption of food and drink or in our pursuit of wealth and status. By practicing these virtues in our daily lives, we not only cultivate inner strength and resilience, but also foster deeper connections with those around us. When we approach conflicts with wisdom, courage, justice, and temperance, we're better equipped to find solutions that are fair, compassionate, and mutually beneficial. So the next time you find yourself facing a problem with another person, ask yourself, how can I embody the virtues of Stoicism in this situation? Whether it's by approaching the conflict with wisdom and empathy, or by standing up for what is just and fair, remember that the practice of virtues is the key to navigating life's challenges with grace and integrity. Tip number 5. Choosing your battles wisely. In the heat of the moment, it's easy to get swept up in the urge to fight every battle that comes our way. But Stoicism reminds us that not all conflicts are worth engaging in. Choosing your battles wisely is a skill that can save you time, energy, and unnecessary stress. Think of it like this. Imagine you're on a battlefield, and every conflict is a skirmish. Engaging in every skirmish drains your resources and leaves you vulnerable to defeat. But by carefully selecting which battles to fight, you conserve your strength and increase your chances of victory in the long run. So how do you determine which battles are worth fighting? Start by asking yourself a few key questions. Is this conflict truly important to me, or am I just reacting out of habit or ego? Will engaging in this battle bring about a positive outcome, or will it only escalate the situation further? Am I willing to sacrifice my peace of mind and well-being for the sake of winning this conflict? Stoicism teaches us to focus our energy on what truly matters and to let go of the rest. Sometimes the wisest choice is to simply walk away and focus on more productive pursuits. This doesn't mean avoiding conflict altogether. It means being intentional about where we direct our time and attention. By choosing your battles wisely, you demonstrate wisdom, restraint, and self-awareness. You show that you are in control of your emotions and actions rather than being ruled by them. So the next time you find yourself faced with a conflict, take a moment to pause and consider whether it's a battle worth fighting. Your future self will thank you for it. We hope you are enjoying this video so far and are learning something valuable from it. If you do, please don't forget to leave a like and a comment below. This will help spread the wisdom but also reinforces your commitment to personal growth and understanding. Tip number 6. Communicating effectively. Communication is the cornerstone of any successful relationship, yet it's often easier said than done. Effective communication requires more than just talking. It's about truly understanding and being understood. In the realm of Stoicism, clear and compassionate communication is essential for resolving conflicts and fostering deeper connections with others. At its core, effective communication involves active listening. Instead of simply waiting for your turn to speak, strive to understand the other person's perspective. Listen with an open mind and genuine curiosity, seeking to grasp not only what they're saying, but also the emotions and intentions behind their words. But communication isn't just about listening. It's also about expressing yourself clearly and honestly. Be willing to share your thoughts, feelings, and needs in a respectful and assertive manner. Avoiding passive-aggressive behavior or bottling up your emotions, as this only serves to escalate conflicts and strain relationships. Another key aspect of effective communication is empathy. Put yourself in the other person's shoes and consider how your words and actions might impact them. Show compassion and understanding even when you disagree, and strive to find common ground and mutual understanding. In addition to verbal communication, nonverbal cues also play a crucial role in effective communication. Pay attention to your body language, tone of voice, and facial expressions, as these can convey messages as powerful as words themselves. Finally, be willing to engage in honest and constructive dialogue, even when it's uncomfortable. Address conflicts and disagreements head-on, but do so with respect and tact. Remember that the goal of communication isn't always to win an argument, but rather to find solutions and strengthen the relationship. By mastering the art of effective communication, you'll not only resolve conflicts more efficiently, but also build trust, respect, and intimacy in your relationships. So take the time to hone your communication skills and watch as your connections with others deepen and flourish. Tip number 7. Setting boundaries. Boundaries are like the fences around a garden. They define where you end and others begin, and they're essential for maintaining healthy relationships. In Stoicism, setting boundaries is an act of self-respect and self-care, allowing us to protect our well-being while fostering mutual respect and understanding. Setting boundaries starts with knowing your own needs, values, and limits. Take the time to reflect on what's important to you and what behaviors you're willing to tolerate and what you're not. Remember that it's okay to say no to things that don't align with your values or that make you uncomfortable. Once you've identified your boundaries, it's important to communicate them clearly and assertively. Be direct and specific about what you need and expect from others, and don't be afraid to enforce your boundaries if they're crossed. Remember that boundaries are not about controlling or manipulating others, but rather about honoring your own needs and autonomy. Setting boundaries also involves respecting the boundaries of others. Just as you have the right to set limits, so do they. Listen to their needs and preferences and strive to accommodate them whenever possible. By respecting each other's boundaries, you create an environment of trust, safety, and mutual respect. Of course, setting boundaries isn't always easy. It may require you to confront uncomfortable situations or risk disappointing others. But remember that your well-being is worth it. By setting and maintaining healthy boundaries, you empower yourself to live authentically and to cultivate relationships that are built on trust, respect, and mutual understanding. So take the time to define your boundaries and don't be afraid to assert them when necessary. Your relationships will thank you for it, and you'll find yourself feeling happier, healthier, and more fulfilled as a result. Tip number 8. Practicing gratitude. Gratitude is the antidote to resentment and discontentment, and it's a powerful tool for fostering positive relationships with others. In Stoicism, gratitude is more than just a fleeting feeling. It's a way of life, a mindset that can transform how we approach problems with people. At its core, gratitude is about acknowledging and appreciating the blessings in our lives, big and small. It's about recognizing the good things that others bring into our lives and expressing genuine appreciation for them. When we practice gratitude, we cultivate a spirit of generosity and goodwill that can diffuse conflicts and strengthen bonds with others. But gratitude isn't just about saying thank you when someone does something nice for us. It's about cultivating an attitude of thankfulness in all areas of our lives, even when things aren't going as planned. In the midst of conflict or disagreement, gratitude reminds us of the positive aspects of our relationships and helps us to focus on what truly matters. One powerful way to cultivate gratitude is through the practice of daily reflection. Take a few moments each day to pause and reflect on the things you're grateful for, whether it's the support of friends and family, the beauty of nature, or the simple pleasures of life. By making gratitude a regular part of your routine, you'll find that you approach problems with people from a place of abundance rather than scarcity. Gratitude also has the remarkable ability to shift our perspective and reframe our experiences in a more positive light. Instead of dwelling on what's lacking or going wrong in our relationships, gratitude allows us to see the good that's already present and to appreciate the growth and learning that comes from overcoming challenges together. So the next time you find yourself grappling with a problem involving another person, take a moment to practice gratitude. Express appreciation for the positive aspects of your relationship and approach the situation with a spirit of goodwill and generosity. You'll be amazed at how quickly conflicts can dissolve and relationships can flourish when gratitude is at the forefront. Tip number 9. Accepting what you cannot change. In life, there are certain things that are beyond our control. No matter how hard we try, we cannot change other people or force them to behave in a certain way. This fundamental truth is a central tenet of Stoic philosophy, and learning to accept it can be incredibly liberating when it comes to solving problems with people. Acceptance doesn't mean resignation or defeat. It means acknowledging reality as it is and making peace with it. It's about letting go of the illusion of control and embracing the serenity that comes from surrendering to the natural order of things. When we accept that we cannot change others, we free ourselves from the burden of trying to fix or manipulate them. Instead, we focus our energy on what we can control: our own thoughts, actions, and reactions. This shift in perspective empowers us to approach conflicts with clarity and equanimity rather than frustration or resentment. Acceptance also allows us to cultivate compassion and empathy for others, recognizing that they too are struggling with their own challenges and limitations. By letting go of our need to change them, we create space for understanding and connection, even in the midst of disagreement or conflict. Of course, acceptance is easier said than done. It requires practice and patience, and it may not happen overnight. But the more we embrace the principle of accepting what we cannot change, the more peace and harmony we'll find in our relationships with others. So the next time you find yourself butting heads with someone, take a moment to pause and remember the power of acceptance. Let go of the need to control or change them and focus instead on accepting them as they are. In doing so, you'll find a newfound sense of freedom and tranquility that will transform how you approach problems with people. With all that said, please continue watching the recommended videos now on your screen, or check out one of the videos on our homepage. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and leave a comment below. I would love to hear from you and know what you think. Remember, stay strong, stay stoic.